it brings us to the point of how you actually encompass and encapsulate what we've learned today, even, again, just scratching the surface of a character like Alan Dulles. And again, I think that the fascistic nexus of Wall Street / legal / intelligence power that is the higher level of power that we heard Alan Dulles mention at the beginning of today's episode is perfectly encapsulated in the biography of someone like Alan Dulles, and let us not be so naive to think that that nexus of power does not exist today. In fact, has not been amplified over the decades that this cancerous tumor has been allowed to grow on the planet. But perhaps as a fitting tribute to the legacy of Alan Dulles, we'll summarize with a couple of quotes, one again from Robert Crowley, again Assistant Deputy Director of Central Intelligence Operations, who, in a candid set of remarks that, again, I'll include the link so you can go and read them for yourself, he said, among other things, "Alan was not a kind or thoughtful man, but his wife really did a number on him at the end. Alan was dying in '69, and they had a Christmas party at his place. Wife was downstairs with the guests, having a wonderful time. Not a word about Alan except that he was not feeling well. Finally, one of the boys decided to go up and wish Alan a Merry Christmas. Guess what he found? Alan lying in urine and feces-soaked bed, completely out of it and mumbling to himself. She had left him up there for quite a while. Ugly. She really must have hated him. The boys picked him up, wrapped him in a clean blanket, and took him to the hospital where he died about a month later. She didn't care at all and was very upset that they used one of her good blankets." It really says something when your wife at the end of your life cares more about the blanket that you're used to transport to the hospital than you yourself. So that is one, I think, fitting testament to the legacy of Alan Dulles, who, although we didn't get into it in this podcast, was absolutely an on the record and admitted serial philanderer. And so there's probably reasons that his wife was not quite so fond of him and treated him like that towards the end of his life. But let's leave the final word on Dulles and the Dulles brothers' legacy to Stephen Kinzer, who actually had an interesting little story about a piece of artwork that might serve as a fitting testament to the real legacy of the Dulles brothers. That's going to do it for today. Once again, I invite you to join me in the open source investigation to continue laying out the cookie crumb trail, pointing so many of these dark deeds back at the doorstep of Alan Dulles in the comment section of this podcast at CorbettReport.com. Once again, this is James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, looking forward to talking to you again very soon.
Now, also during my research, I came across a magnificent artistic masterpiece. I consider this one of the greatest works of political art of the 20th century. It's a mural painted by Diego Rivera. Now, right after Arbenz was overthrown in 1954, there were huge protests in Latin America. I just had lunch yesterday with Ricardo Lagos, the recent president of Chile. He told me that as a teenager, he rioted. He demonstrated in front of the U.S. Embassy on the day after the coup in Chile as a college student. Well, so did Diego Rivera. Diego Rivera and his wife Frida Kahlo participated in a protest rally. Frida Kahlo was deathly ill and was under doctor's orders not to move out of her bed. But she was so outraged by the overthrow of Arbenz that she insisted. And Diego Rivera pushed her in a wheelchair in the front of the protest rally in Mexico with all these signs denouncing America for overthrowing democracy in Guatemala. Frida Kahlo died 11 days later. Diego Rivera went on to paint this spectacular 16-foot-long mural depicting the Guatemala coup. There you see Foster Dulles shaking hands with his Guatemalan lackey, while Alan Dulles is right behind him with a big satchel of cash. And there you see the bought-off archbishop and the American ambassador who carried it all. Meanwhile, you've got these Guatemalan laborers breaking their backs with huge loads of bananas that they're carrying onto a ship with an American flag with all dead Guatemalan children in front of them. It's a spectacular piece. I have seen many reproductions of this painting, and I've stared at it literally for hours. So I decided that while writing this book, I got to go see that picture. Now, that painting has a very tortured history. It was shown in Guatemala for about 6 months. That would have been about 5 or 6 years ago. I missed that. So I want to track it down. It's not in Guatemala anymore. So, of course, I figured it's got to be in Mexico with all of the Diego Rivera paintings. It was very difficult to locate where in Mexico it was. I finally had to hire someone in Mexico to go to all the Diego Rivera foundations and figure it out. Finally, I came back to the answer that this picture is not in Mexico. This picture is in a museum in Moscow. Because Diego Rivera was a communist. He sent it to the Soviets, but the Soviets didn't want to display it because Diego Rivera was actually only considered himself a communist. He was not pro-Soviet. He was quite a free thinker, and the Soviets didn't like him. So I finally located the museum where this painting is, and through a Russian lady who helped me with a lot of emails, I was able to contact the assistant director of that museum. And I got back an email, and it said, I'm sorry to tell you that that painting is not on display. It's on a rolled up in our storage room. If you would like to come to Moscow, as you said you'd like to, we can take you into the basement and show you the roll. But we cannot unroll it because we don't have the space. So this brilliant masterpiece is never seen. And actually, the audience that needs to see it is really not in Russia, and it's really not in Guatemala. It's here. We're the ones that need to see that picture. So this is my modest proposal. Dulles Airport. Let us place the bust back where it was. Let us bring the Diego Rivera mural and let Americans confront the Dulles brothers and what they mean for us. Thank you.
The Corbett Report is brought to you by the Corbett Report subscriber. A weekly newsletter featuring James Corbett's International Forecaster editorial, recommended reading and viewing, discounts on Corbett Report DVDs, and once a month, a subscriber-only video. Sign up today to start receiving your copy at corbettreport.com/support.
Well, only that as far as I know, we don't engage in assassinations and kidnappings and things of that kind. As far as I know, we never have.